Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like John Mozeliak, is ready to basically let it coast the rest of the season. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Hey, everyone.
And this week, we are going to be talking about the Cardinal prospect rankings. We're going to try to rate the Cardinal offseason, and we're going to touch on the new rules that are going into effect for 2023. If you have an idea for the opening bit, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Well, Ben, you've got your characteristic energy about you today. I can tell you're beaming, you're speaking full-throated excitement. Everything seems totally normal with you over there.
Yeah, thanks for noticing, Nate. You jerk.
So Hambone here, Gorilla himself is a little hamstrung this week. Well, Ben, why don't you?
Yeah, no, you're getting to it. Yeah, I got dental surgery yesterday, and it was much more invasive than I expected. So I can't really open my mouth all the way. It doesn't hurt what I'm doing right now. So we were joking about this before we got on mic, but like, it's literally the only injury that could affect a podcast performance, and I'm sitting in the middle of it right now.
Here we are,
and it sounds like I'm gonna have a more road of this ahead of me. But you know, this is when you get your surgeries done in the off season, so that you can come back when the season starts full strength. I don't think I'm gonna miss a show or anything like that, but I can only open my mouth so wide, and smiling does kind of hurt. But you know,
well, fortunately, that won't be a problem for this show. So
yeah,
does frowning and generally feeling bad about yourself really impact your mouth too much?
I've been doing that all day, and it's been fine. So no, I think I'm good there. But yeah, I do apologize for the way that I at least feel that I sound right now.
I don't know. I think this might be our best show yet.
Like I said, good. There's like way more. It sounds like coming down the line. Yay.
I think you should go like colonial American dentistry here, like wood teeth, like a full set of wood dentures. If it was good enough for George Washington, it's good enough for you.
They did offer to pull one of my teeth. They said this is an option. And I said, oh, well, that doesn't sound too bad. What do you think of that? And she goes, you're 34 years old. You can't start pulling teeth already. So I'm not going to have a gold tooth or a wooden tooth yet. I got to stick with the teeth I got.
I mean, I do think you'd look super swag with a gold tooth. But so they gave you the option and then like chastised you when you asked for their opinion?
They didn't chastise me. They were more just like, this is the decision a fool would make. Do you want to be a fool? And I said, no, I want to be cool.
I'm no fool. I'm cool. But that's tricky because cool people have gold teeth. So
damn. All right. I'll call them tomorrow morning. Yank it, Doc.
Yeah. I think you should go with the wooden tooth option.
Yeah, it's weird that those fell out of fashion. I can't think of why.
It was definitely a fashion thing is why they don't do them anymore. Because I have to imagine it's still a very effective solution, medically speaking.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's carry this energy forward and just dive right in. So,
there's exciting things to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here.
You're here. We've been doing this show for almost a year straight.
Yeah.
And, we've been fortunate enough to be able to make it every single week on time. We're recording at basically the latest possible moment we can for not even just because of your teeth, for a
No.
multitude of reasons, but it is, worked out as best we can. So
Yeah, we should have recorded yesterday when I was like super duper high and I kept asking Mary for pills, and I think I kept asking for popsicles. I don't really remember yesterday. We should have recorded.
I mean, you clearly don't remember, but I was lobbying for us to record.
Yeah. Well, we missed the ship. Maybe next week or whenever I get my next surgery, we'll get into that.
Next time we're watching the sequel to Battlefield Baseball 2 or whatever. It's not called Battlefield Baseball 2. There's the movie that is like a spiritual sequel to Battlefield Baseball.
Yeah.
We're gonna the trailer is like softcore porn.
Yeah.
We're gonna watch that, you and I,
Great.
while you're recovering from mouth surgery.
All right. That sounds fun.
Well, there's a little bit of stuff to talk about this week. What do you want to jump into first?
Well, I mean, first, I think we should celebrate the fact that pitchers and catchers are reporting here this month. Baseball things are happening this month.
We made it.
February 13th, the WBC attendees are going to report to spring training. And then in between the 15th and the 17th, everybody else all the pitchers and catchers report to spring training. So I think that is very, very exciting. We're going to have Willson Contreras sightings. We're going to have all the youngsters that we've been talking about, Wayno and Michaelis and so on. We'll be getting ready for the WBC. We're going to have like baseball players on baseball fields doing baseball actions to actually talk about real things. And it's happening in 2 weeks.
I know. I'm incredibly excited. It always feels a little anticlimactic, pitchers and catchers reporting, because it's like, cool, a bunch of dudes are showing up at a place in Florida,
Right?
But you know what? It's better than nothing, right? And it's a symbol of what's coming down the line. So I think this spring is going to be a particularly exciting one. Besides all the actual like Cardinal news and the young guns gunning for young guns gunning. That's
young guns gunning. That's just great podcasting right there. Yeah,
good word choices. Gunning for a roster spot, but also we have the WBC. So, baseball is coming back with a vengeance. And I was thinking, like, there was 2022 was all fucked up because of the strike,
right?
And then 2020 and 2021 were all goofed up because of COVID. This is the first, like, we're just having a normal spring, with normal everything, generally speaking. Obviously WBC kind of skews that a little bit, but
I was going to say it's only so normal.
Yeah, but I think it's like it's a plus up rather than like oh no, it does make the sort of the standard escalation of spring feel a little bit different and whatnot, but I think we're all okay with that. It's just we get to watch games that matter sooner than we normally would, and get to watch just like these insane Uber teams that are playing for their country, which, like, I think most of these guys end up feeling even more fired up about that than, like, maybe anything other than like late postseason in the regular season.
Yeah,
So
in 22 days, we get to hear Chip Carey's first broadcast, which I'm excited about that. Speaking of the WBC, are you at all nervous about the fact that the Cardinals have 350 to 400 innings of starting pitchers that are playing in the WBC? Are you at all worried about the health of Wainwright and Michaelis in the WBC?
I'm trying not to be, I guess
I know
I'm
I
not
want to
anymore.
enjoy Team USA, but
Yeah.
it's also like, hopefully
Yeah.
they are treated. I mean, they're veterans, right? They know what they're doing. They probably won't get hurt.
So what I understand, and what we've seen in the years past, is that, like, generally speaking, the teams are trying to respect the current situation for their major league players.
Sure, yeah.
But also, like, man, Wayno and Michaelis, like, their whole thing is just going up there and throwing all day. And if they're going to break in a WBC game in March, like they're probably going to break in a regular season game in April, right? I have a hard time believing that it's like, there's that it'd be something like so fundamentally off for them that it would break them in a way that they wouldn't have already.
I don't know,
And
man. The adrenaline of the world stage, you can't
yeah,
discount that.
Michaelis is gonna be there in like a clown costume, trying to like blend into the crowd
Cowabunga,
or something.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I will
Then of course
preemptively
there's
sorry.
the freak accident option that is
Right.
like more likely to happen in a competitive game than just like a regular spring training game. But if you're worried about that,
Sure.
then you're probably driving yourself crazy worrying about everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I will preemptively say that if a Cardinal gets hurt in spring training or playing for Team USA, that's not going to like change the way that I feel about the injury or the player or whatever is going on. I'm not going to
Yeah,
like yell towards the front office saying, why would you let your Wainwrights play in the
right.
WBC? I'm actually kind of disappointed that it sounds like it was a mutual decision, but that Willson Contreras is not going to be playing in the WBC for Team Venezuela. But with everything on his plate, it's easy to see why that's happening.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that everyone's like, yeah, that makes sense. I think the way he spoke about it, it's like, yeah, I mean, half his job is learning about the new team and building those relationships. And so, they need him there, and I think it's the right call, but it is a bummer.
Yeah, and learning's hard.
It is hard. Um, do you have a team you're rooting for?
What are you talking? I'm sitting here in Denver, Colorado. I'm rooting for Team USA all the way. I mean, outside of that, like obviously the Dominican Republic is stacked with stars. I love Shohei Ohtani and Lars Nootbaar and some other Japanese
Yeah,
players. That's going to be really fun. I mean, Tommy Edman on Team Korea. I'm going to be watching those games too, even though they're a big underdog. Korea has a real baseball presence. But yeah, I mean, obviously rooting for Team America. And I mean, Venezuela is
hmm
good too. We're just talking about Willson Contreras is there. Puerto Rico is always good. Yeah, I kind of like in this event. I'm rooting for Team USA first, and then like any MLB star after that. I just want to see good
yeah.
things. I will say I don't know if you've looked at the seating yet, and maybe we'll break this down more next week or the week that the WBC actually starts. But America's their draw the first round is really easy. Their USA should skate through I think like they have like Team Mexico, and I think they might even have the Czech Republic. Some not that Mexico's a slouch, but compared to the other South American teams,
Yeah.
they're pretty weak on major league talent.
There's some clear, I think, tiers, in the WBC, and yeah, those
Yeah,
teams are lower tier. But I mean, it is, it's every nation's all stars. It's what
yeah.
makes it so much fun. And
And
they
the
actually
players
play
that
to
came out
win.
this year, yeah, the players that
Yeah,
came out this year, like the fact that Trout is center fielder for Team USA, like that's awesome. Hopefully, I don't know. I just want to see USA go far, and Goldie and Arenado do their thing, and
yeah. Could
hopefully, like we were
definitely
talking about.
could be recency bias. I'd need to look at like previous years rosters, but it definitely feels like this year there's been a little bit more than
Oh,
normal of
without a
like,
doubt.
yeah,
No, I
yeah,
think once Trout announced that he was playing, then we saw the wave of top tier players come through. And then, Shohei showing up. Like the two best players in baseball are going to be playing in the WBC. And the DR's roster is just absolutely
it's
stacked.
yeah,
So
they're like
the
ninth
stars
on
came
their
out.
depth chart is Wander Franco. It's like the
Yes.
the Dominican Republican team is I said Dominican Republican. The
Yeah, that's
Dominican Republic team is fantastic. So
Republica Dominicana.
yeah. Yeah, I mean obviously, America baby, USA
Yeah, let's
USA.
go. Come on.
Yeah. After that, I think I'd love to see Japan just crush everyone. So
I mean, there's a non-zero chance that Shohei just puts them on their back and they dominate. Like he
yeah,
is. no one else has a Shohei shaped player character. So yeah,
Yeah, though, if that was the case, if that was actually possible, the Angels would be better than they are. So,
sure,
it, all
that is
right.
fair.
Well, we'll see. So we're gonna really try to cover the WBC this year. So, hopefully you'll watch along, but if not, you can listen along as we watch the games too. So, um, let's jump in to some prospect talk. So, one of the more fun things about the offseason, especially right now, is the season's starting to ramp up a little bit. Publications are turning more towards talking about baseball again, and we're starting to get a lot more lists. Who doesn't love a list? I love a list. And
I
we're
prefer a
getting
listicle.
I like the lists where you have to hit the next arrow to see
Mm,
every single item on the list. And
yeah,
my
that's good.
favorite thing is when they put an ad in between every single one.
Yeah, that's good.
That's how I like to consume content.
Can't argue
Um,
that.
the ads are for me, Ben. Oh, I want that shirt that says something like beers and baseball are my life or whatever. All right. Anyway,
The hell are
there's
you
the
talking about?
do you not get those targeted like those ads that
My
like
ads are very different.
everyone's trying to sell me novelty t-shirts. I'm
Yeah.
about a novelty t-shirt since I was like 15.
Yeah, you wear the
But I
same
did buy a
Henleys
lot of
every
them.
single day. Yeah.
I bought a lot of novelty t-shirts when I was 15.
That's pretty
Um,
cool.
so we're getting prospect lists, and that's what we wanted to talk a little bit about today. Notably, Keith Laws, which is always a good one, came out recently.
Yeah.
But we've gotten a whole bunch. How do you want to go through this? What do you want to talk about?
Well, yeah, I think what's really cool, and I think that people who listen to this or who pay attention to the Cardinals in general already know this, but I think there's a little sense of validation in the fact that Baseball America, MLB Pipeline, Prospectus, and Keith Law all agree that Jordan Walker is a top six prospect in baseball. I mean, I think he's number one, but Connor Capel is not going to be as good as Jordan Walker. I'm going to say that right now. People are so high on him, and I know he works in an offensive and friendly environment. I
Yeah,
just don't think he's going to be as good as people think he is. I also don't think that he's going to outshine our lovely behemoth that is Jordan Walker.
yeah,
Um, Outside of that, Mason Winn and Tink Hens are all in the top 100 for all four of those lists. So again, I don't think that that's surprising to read, but I do think that there is something really nice that essentially across the board, everyone agrees that those three are top 100 prospects in the sport. And you'd have to say that those are all guys with ceilings that are sky high.
yeah. I think, yeah, obviously Jordan Walker. I mean, that most of the people that are ahead of him are people who have broken into the league also and just haven't hit the minimum qualifier list yet.
Right.
So like Gunnar Henderson, Corbin Carroll, guys like that. And so there's a legit possibility, depending on how the Cardinals decide to handle Jordan Walker, that he will fill the number one prospect in baseball spot sooner rather than later. Like if he doesn't make the team and out of
Oh, was
camp,
that? Sorry, I think I
you
just realized I was saying Connor Capel and I meant Corbin Carroll.
so you
Just to make
were
sure we're all on the same page there. Yeah.
and
Connor
I
Capel
was
is
a
going to be a beast. No, Corbin Carroll. Sorry about
Corbin
that. Yeah.
Carroll. Okay. I was a
What a
little confused, but I
surgery
wasn't gonna
brain.
like, yeah, push back because some people are into Connor Capel because he had a good like month last year. But wasn't sure what you were talking about. So
I'd like you
um
to think higher of my player evaluation skills than me thinking that it's Connor Capel and Jordan Walker are going to be somehow competitive. So to reiterate, Corbin Carroll, he'll be a fine baseball player, but he's not going to be as good as Jordan Walker. I'm saying it right now. There we go. Lock it
I
in.
think it's gonna be two different types of guys though. It's like Corbin Carroll's he's got this, he's the fastest guy in baseball now, right? And so like how do you compare that to Jordan Walker who might end up one of the better hitters. I don't know. So
All I'm
um,
saying is there's a tool that leaves you the quickest, and there's a tool that sticks around for a while. And Corbin
yeah,
Carroll, I think like he'll be fast for a little, but we'll see what happens.
yeah.
I'm
I
calling
definitely
him
would
out
not.
directly.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet on. I would not take the other side of the bet you're going for here. So I
Sure.
wouldn't buy that for $1.
Wow.
So Walker, it's exciting. Winn, it's exciting. I think Winn is very interesting because we still don't really know like what type of player is he going to be. He was a pitcher not that long ago, so I've seen a bunch of different outcomes for him. It's like, does he put on more weight and end up being a 30 home run guy? Or does he lean into the like athleticism and the speed and he's more like 15 home runs but 40 stolen bases and he's the best shortstop in baseball? Like, I don't know, there's a ton of different ways that this could go, but basically everyone projects him to be a really really good baseball player. We just don't know like what type yet, which
Yeah.
is kind of almost more exciting in some ways, right? Like the unknown.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of like, it's we always like to put these guys in buckets, right? Because there's so many guys you kind of have to like, Jordan Walker is going to be a big masher that should hold his own in right field. And yeah, what kind of guy is Mason Winn going to be? And I agree with you. I would say from my point of view and the way that he's talked about and the little that I have seen him play, I get a lot of like Rafael Furcal vibes, like good
Yeah.
shortstop, quick, ridiculous arm, and he can hit a ball over the wall every once in a while. And if that's his low end or if that's what he becomes, that's a very, like you talked about, very good baseball player.
So that's where I think it's interesting because like Walker has that ceiling that everyone's talking about. Like there are some legitimate projections around Walker of him becoming one of the best hitters in the league, right? That's what everybody's looking at for him. With Win, he might not end up being like an incredible offensive force, but it should be the total package makes him
Right.
incredibly valuable. I think Call is an interesting comp because if you could say like Nate, I guarantee like you're locking it in right now, Mason Wynn will become a Rafael Call. Like I'd say like give that to me right away.
Hell
Easy,
yeah.
easy call, right? He's not going to get in the Hall of Fame, nothing like that. He's never going to be an MVP contender, but he's going to be a critical piece. And he's going to be really, really good for several years. Like, that is still an unlikely outcome for any baseball player, right? So you'd take that in a heartbeat. I've seen
And
some
hey, if
people say Andres Jimenez on
hell
the
yeah,
Guardians,
I'll take that
right?
all day. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And he's super young and still has some room to grow too. So yeah, we'll see. And then finally, uh, maybe the guy with the highest ceiling, but also the lowest floor of all of these, Tink Hence,
Yeah.
his meteoric rise through these lists after a really short 2022 season, but everyone just like it's the classic like projectable, right? They've seen with what we've seen, if he continues to project and continues to develop in the way that it looks, this is the most exciting pitching prospect the Cardinals have had since Alex Reyes, which feels bad to say, but remember Alex Reyes was the top prospect in baseball at one point, so
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah, and I think like I want to be excited about Tink Hence. I think we have reason to be excited. Like he's a 20-year-old who's like still rail thin and his fastball sits 95, 97 with lots of spin and his breaking stuff keeps getting better and better and he's working on a changeup that seems to be better and better. But like you just said, you know, don't ever put all of your eggs in a pitching prospects basket. Like these guys are
Yeah,
going to break. I would be shocked if Tink Hence doesn't break at some level before he gets to the majors. But outside of that, I mean, I kind of love everything about him, especially the fact
yeah.
that he's getting these evaluations so quickly. Yeah, I mean, it's impossible not to be super excited about him. Yeah, kind of
Yeah,
like Alex Reyes meets Carlos, not
Martinez,
Santana, Martinez, because kind of
smooth,
got great
real,
guitar licks and a
yeah,
great arm.
real smooth. Yep.
But yeah, kind of an undersized guy with like the biggest arm in the world. I think it's fun.
I think it's fun too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really been quite the jump for him. Very exciting though. We'll see him in spring a little bit. We'll see what this, where this goes.
I wouldn't be surprised if it plays right away too. I bet he puts on a show. But yeah, well, we shall see. Maybe the nerves will get to him a little bit.
It's like there's some of these guys where it's like Jordan Hicks, they're just like, oh shit, like he can do it now. Like it might not be perfect, but let's get him here. Like he can do
Honest,
it.
there would be more surprising storylines to me than if, oh my God, we need Tinkins at the bullpen right away.
Yeah.
Especially if an injury or something like that happens. But I would not be surprised if, Ali really gets his eyes and that everyone's really looking at his stuff, and Dusty Baker's spending some time, Dusty Blake is spending time with them, and they're like, yeah, I think that fastball plays right now. Let's go.
Yeah. Most likely not, right? The
Oh
most
no, that's
likely thing is,
unfair
yeah.
expectations. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the most likely thing is that they're actually going to continue to handle him incredibly cautiously because they want him to, grow up a little bit more and fill out a little
Oh,
bit more, but you
yeah. If
never
Kyle
know.
Reese was sitting with us right now, he would scream at us for saying what we're saying right now, and he's
Yeah.
right. Um,
Yeah.
but it's hard not to get excited about a big arm like that.
Right. Right. The other guy that's popping up on lists that I think was probably the most surprising, at least for me, was Gordon Graceffo.
Yeah,
um, which is, I mean, all of this is exciting, but that's nice in its own way because I think everybody, we were all pretty hyped on Graceffo, but I think in a more like, great, the Cardinals we need as many starting pitchers as possible. This dude is probably going to slot in as a 4 or 5, but he's going to do it quickly. They very recently drafted him. He's going to come up, he's going to be serviceable, and, we need arms. But something happened last year that caught
yeah,
a lot of evaluators' eyes. And while he's still projected as a mid rotation starter, that number where he might end up in the rotation has been slowly ticking up. It started as back into the rotation. Now you're seeing people say he could be a solid number 3. And then you're starting to see a little bit of maybe there's even more there, and considering the Cardinals pitching need and his actual legitimate closeness to the majors, like it would be very, very helpful if
yeah.
Gordon Graceffo was good and soon.
It's all kind of lining up for him, like you said. The tick up in the stuff, the tick up in the evaluation, and kind of just the tick up in his game overall. Not to mention he'll turn 23 at some point this year, which kind of helps your odds of being called up. It's performance isn't the only thing; it's window and age and availability and all that too. So it is kind of fun that he kind of went from this depth piece to, oh wait, this fastball is ticking up. He can get guys out. Now, I do think that, like, while we're talking about Tink Hence and how Tink could come up and maybe be a strikeout machine and just this guy that can get anyone out and would be starting for any team, I think Graceffo is probably still more likely what you're talking about. Somewhere in the rotation, not necessarily at the top of it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, super exciting. Like, you use the word meteoric earlier about Tink. I think the same thing could be said for Graceffo.
Yeah. And Graceffo has a pretty clear line to the rotation.
Yeah,
And we need people in it for sure in 2024. So,
we do need people in the
um,
rotation. That's 100% accurate.
so it certainly seems like if he continues to perform, like he's got a spot waiting for him if he can take it.
Call him up.
Call him up. So yeah, so that's there's some other side of this, some guys that have dropped off the list. Libertor, Herrera. But that's not as exciting. We're here sitting at the beginning of February. Baseball's about to start. We want to, focus on the highlights.
And I think Liberatore, I think there's a big question mark about. Herrera, I think there's a big question mark about around both of those players. Like, I think that obviously they didn't help their stock out much, but I don't see how they necessarily took a step back. Like, Liberatore got a couple of cups of coffee, and is kind of figuring himself out. I have not lost any faith in him. I don't think that. I think the likelihood of him being a number one or anything like that is kind of out the window. But I think you'd be crazy to say that he's not going to be an effective big league pitcher here very, very soon, if not actively in 2023. So I don't know. And with Herrera, honestly, it's hard for me to even really have an opinion because we really didn't see much at all last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's mostly why he fell off. Is it's like there wasn't even much to evaluate.
Yeah.
It didn't really feel like that we got much time with him. But yeah, I feel the same way about Liberatore. I am still, and I still think he will be good. Last year was such a strange year for him. It was kind of like Flaherty, just
Yeah.
never really could get it going. Never had a great run of starts. There's so much about pitching that is like that comfort and consistency. At least that's what a lot of guys, talk
Yeah.
about really, really needing. And they never had that. And for Liberatore, it's also coupled with making it to the major leagues for the first time, which is a whole other layer of complication on anything. So, yeah, I mean, I think we both expect him to get several starts this year. And, I'm still a believer, but I understand why he falls off of a top 100 list when there's a full season of guys who crushed in the minors. Someone who struggles in the majors, even at a minor level, is just going
Right.
to look less exciting than a Graceffo, right?
The shine wears off. Yeah. And exactly,
Yeah,
back to the Tink Hence thing. It's it's really easy to go crazy on a guy that's striking out guys in single A and double A. And easier to have the shine wear off of somebody who's getting shelled by the Pittsburgh Pirates. But let's not forget that those are two extremely different tasks. Like, you plop Liberatore in there, and he's dominating those kids. So
right.
yeah, outside, and it should be noted that Graceffo and Liberatore are on a couple of prospect lists, and also Alec Burleson is on a prospect list. Although I
Yeah.
think it's all but guaranteed that he's going to have a spot on the roster this year, so that rookie eligibility will be gone fairly soon. And you know what, Nate? Maybe dark horse candidate for rookie of the year. Maybe he'll hit his way onto that list. I don't think that that's actually a likelihood, but he's probably going to get some the most ABs out of any rookie outside of Corbin Carroll. Maybe he'll accumulate his way to it. Who knows?
Maybe. I mean, we've talked about those underlying numbers that really started coming around at the end of
He,
last season.
he hit ball hard.
He did hit ball hard. It's going to be tricky, depending on what Walker does. And yeah, obviously Carroll's going to probably get just a full season of at
I
bats.
mean, why
So
wouldn't he? Yeah.
yeah,
Although
exactly.
the
And
Diamondbacks might be good this year, I don't really. I mean, not good for their
yeah,
division, but they're well. How about this? They'll be better than the Rockies this year.
low bar.
Hmm.
No, you know what's going to happen is the stupid Braves are going to call up some dude that everyone says it's too early to call him up. He's going to rake for,
Oh
one
yeah,
month, get an $80 million contract, and then win
yeah,
the rookie of the year.
yeah.
Um, s- Stupid, sexy Braves. All
They're
right.
good.
Let's move on. So, you want us here to try to rank the Cardinal off season or
Well,
give it a review.
I think before that, we should note that the Cardinals have made a move, Nate. We've been
That's a
begging
good point.
for a move
That's a
for
good point.
weeks and weeks and weeks at this point. And they got that big left-hander that we've all been waiting for. The Cardinals have signed Andrew Suarez to a
We
minor
did
league
it.
contract. Yes. Yeah, this
We
is
did
like
it.
when Bush was on the ship with what was it, job well done or whatever. The war is
Mission
over.
accomplished. Mission
Mission
accomplished.
accomplished.
Mission
Mission
accomplished.
accomplished.
Yeah.
Andrew Suarez just totally nailed that reference.
Yeah.
Um, so he is a pitcher. He was most recently with the Giants. He did not pitch last year. And he's a lefty. And I don't know, end of me talking about him. So, but I did think that it was necessary because the Cardinals did do something.
Yeah, he also didn't pitch in 2021, but he's been pitching was it the Japanese league, maybe the Korean league? I was just
I
looking
believe it
at
was
it.
the KBO.
Yeah, which the Cardinals have had some success.
Yeah,
Pulling guys over from that. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be it. I will say I do understand the Cardinals' approach to the bullpen. And I have no real qualms with how they've handled the bullpen this year, which is much like a lot of other teams that we think are very smart handle it. Take a ton of flyers on guys that have some particular skill set. We're pretty hyped on Vilking, right?
yeah.
The Dodgers and the Rays pretty much every year just string together a squad of bullpen arms that seemingly came from nowhere, except for like when the Dodgers get like Craig Kimbrell or whatever for a short
Yeah.
time. But
Well, they
like
just get everybody. Yeah.
the majority of their bullpen, and especially the Rays, it's just like random guys with really long last names that you never really know where they came from, and then you actually look at their stats for the season. It's like, oh shit, 65 innings, 1.5 ERA, is a really good get, and then they're just gone. They just use them and then they find someone else. So I think that's what the Cardinals are doing. Instead of your $11 million Brett Cecil or Andrew Miller or
Oh
whatever, let's
man,
just
I had forgotten about the Brett Cecil deal. Thanks for
yeah.
rushing that back. That's a good thing to
Um
remember. Poor guy. I
let's
kind
get
of
it.
feel bad for Brett Cecil.
I mean, he got like $40 million from the St. Louis Cardinals, so
Yeah,
he's
I don't feel that bad for him. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, he's having a great time wherever he is.
Yeah.
So I like this individual move is whatever. I hope that
No,
Andrew Suarez is good, but
maybe my tone is off because of my tooth surgery, but I was being facetious. This is
yeah,
he probably highly unlikely we see him wear a big league club uniform, but the Cardinals did make a move. Is all I was trying to
yeah.
say.
No, I know, and but like I do mean it. Like I don't know, any one of these is going to either be forgotten about or look really good,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
odds are that's all we see from them. Either they crush and they're great and we see them, or they just fall off. And
sure.
but I think it's a worthwhile strategy. So
Yeah,
I just wish like that's like the one place you can do that in the bullpen
yeah,
where everything is small sample size and you're
right.
just really trying to play the hot hand. Like it doesn't really work in the
Yeah,
rotation or anywhere else.
you can't quantity over quality a Paul Goldschmidt or a Nolan Arenado or a Tommy Edman or something like that. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So there's still a
So
month or so before spring training happens, and of course, there's actually a bunch of dudes still out on the market. A
yeah,
surprisingly large amount of mid to low tier free agents that are still out there. So who knows? And a trade is always a potential. So we can't say that the Cardinal offseason is done, but it sure feels like it.
sure. Yeah,
Sure
it sure
feels
does
like
feel
it.
like it. Yeah, and I kind of want to talk about the Cardinals offseason as a whole because the Athletic went around this past week and they were kind of handing out grades and who won the offseason, who lost the offseason, blah blah blah. With teams like the Mets, the Phillies, and the Rangers getting A's or A minuses. And I thought what was interesting is the Cardinals got a C plus, which is just slightly better than passing, right? Like it's just barely above average. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And there's a little blurb here written by Katie Wu, and I'm going to quote a little bit of it. It says the Cardinals made three major moves. Two of those were retaining Nolan Arenado and Adam Wainwright. The third signing Willson Contreras. And then to paraphrase, she basically says, which they essentially had to do. And I think I agree with those two things. I think that I will say, I think I agree with the overall grade. I would even maybe go a little less than that, although I do feel it's hard for me to give them a grade lower than, I think a C, even though I'm maybe splitting hairs a little bit here, is probably a more appropriate grade because, yes, they essentially did have to fill the catching hole. They could have done it worse. They could have done it better. They did a fine job. I think that's really the best grade I can get for it. I'm not trying to take away from Willson Contreras, but there were so many other places for them to improve the team, to add depth to the team, which they just kind of didn't. I would subtract the plus, but I guess curious to hear your side. And I will, I love Adam Wainwright, Cardinal forever, one of the best
Of
to do it.
course.
But there are a lot of pitchers that are now no longer available, and some that are still available that you could argue project way, way, way better in the rotation for around the same money, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I hope that we never talk about this throughout the season, but I do wonder how that deal is going to look in hindsight, especially with who's available, how they were gotten, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think you're right. I will say that before I didn't look at like the Fangraphs review. I
Athletic.
was a little or athletic. I was a
Jeez.
little higher. The Connor Cable article here.
Yeah.
I'm a little higher, I think, but I don't know.
Is
You've kind of
retaining
convinced me.
Arenado really a move? Like,
No, so that's I was gonna say
I
like
think
that.
Katie's
You
kind of
don't.
cheating a little. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the Cardinals. That was Arenado making a negative, uh, value decision for his own personal beliefs, which is great. We love it.
Hell yeah.
Hey, folks, we love it, don't we? But that was not the Cardinals. The Cardinals just lucked out that Arenado is the type of guy who values, things beyond money. I mean, and maybe they knew that. That's part of like
Yeah.
everything, but like still, like that is not a Mozeliak choice or a Gersh choice or whatever. So
That
it really
or
is
we're
just
like massively underrating the power of a Mosaic lunch.
hey, I'm not gonna.
Don't do
I don't
it.
know. People love the bow tie.
They hate it.
Arenado. He seems like a classy guy.
Arenado does?
Yeah, I bet he cleans
He
up
seems like a
nicely.
lunatic.
Yeah, but I bet he wears a
Like, I don't want
tuxedo.
to sit down and have a conversation with Nolan Arenado. I think he's too intense.
I bet he wears one of those tuxedos that is like 4 parts and has like a pocket watch
Yeah.
and a pocket square.
And
Um,
everyone knows the more parts to your dress suit that you have, the classier you are. That's just a rule.
that's how I view it.
If you're out there,
Got
if
it.
you're at JCPenney and you're thinking, should I get the top hat too? Just get it. You want to be
If you
classy.
want to look good, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously.
Buy a top hat from JCPenney and people will be
Easy
jealous.
choice. Dude's got hundreds of millions of dollars. He can afford the top hat. Um, but
He might
anyway,
have his own
uh,
haberdasher.
I honestly, if you've got that kind of money, why not have your own haberdasher?
Is that what that job is
You,
called? Is that what
you,
the person who
yeah,
occupies that job is called? Okay.
you've got a
Yeah.
haberdasher, you've got a fishmonger. I'm sure you've got all sorts of specialty staff
Cobbler.
on. Yeah, you need that cobbler. Um, you need a baker to make you cobblers for your
That's fire,
cobbler.
actually. If I
Yeah.
got $100 million, I would have a baker on staff for sure. That would be so dope. Yes.
Hmm. Yeah. Hell yeah. Um, what are we talking about?
The
So
Cardinals, the Athletic
yeah,
gave the Cardinals a C plus on their offseason.
I think it's fair, and I had in my head, and so this is really like picking nits here, but I had like a B minus,
Yeah.
so barely higher than Athletic, and I guess I'm giving more to what I am projecting to be the impact of Willson Contreras because I think we are like continue to understate just like how big of a switch this is to the offensive output of the catching position. And I know like you could say, okay, like he's worse than Yachty defensively, and he's hopefully just replacing Pujols, his offensive production from last year. But like that's not how the world actually works, right? Like they needed a catcher. There's no catcher position. There's nobody in the system that has the offensive potential of Willson Contreras. And I think it's going to be a pretty significant upgrade to the overall lineup. Like I think um, the lineup is just so much deeper with Willson Contreras in it
Yeah.
now. And you free up that DH spot to be a rotationary position for a bunch of different guys who either need rest or we want to get at bats. So I think it is a big signing. Obviously, you and I were both very high on the Sean Murphy train,
Yeah.
and like I think I would still have preferred Sean Murphy, but for what happened, I am still very hyped about the Willson
Yeah.
Contreras signing.
I
And I
do think
get
that,
like they kind of had to, but they did. Also, they did it right. So
yeah.
you know,
I think what you said is probably a part that I wasn't valuing high enough that I think is a really good point. The idea that you get back the flexibility of the DH position with Willson Contreras, even though in all likelihood he'll probably take some ABs there. But,
sure,
let's assume that there's going to be some level of production from Gorman, Yepez, and Burleson, maybe all three. Maybe one will run away with that DH position or those DH ABs. But yeah, that's like something that probably isn't going to show up in an athletic article grading the off season that will likely show up in the real season. It is hard to grade like the work that Gorman put in over the off season.
right,
So yeah, I
right.
think that should maybe I should include that. And I think that's a fair point, but we'll see, I guess, how much value really comes out of those kiddos being able to hit there.
Yeah, and I mean that's what like I would not say a B minus is a particularly good grade, but I think for like the one big move that they did do, it is a very good move. I'm
Yeah.
of course being very optimistic about like the trajectory of Willson Contreras, but I think it's a really really good move, and so like I want to give some credit where credit's due for that, but B minus, like, come on, we were like a shoe in for the playoffs because of the division. Like a deep run is there waiting, and the need was pretty obvious, and the options were pretty diverse as far as filling all of the various needs on the team.
Yeah.
So I'm ultimately disappointed by the off season, but I do want to acknowledge that like I think Willson Contreras is a very good signing. So
Yeah.
we'll
Really,
see.
really quick before we move on, do you have a guess who got the worst grade in this article by the Athletic? That's the only team to get a grade F.
Okay. I'm thinking
And I'll help you out in the way that I will say that I am not in the same state as that team.
damn, okay. I was thinking Rockies,
It
and
could
then
be the Rockies. Yeah.
I was trying to think through the NL Central, but you might my thought was the Pirates, but they might like that the
No,
Pirates did.
I thought the Pirates had a good offseason. I
Yeah.
mean, for Bob Nutting, but
Andrew McCutcheon. Um
yeah, and they got Ji-Man Choi. They
that's true.
got
That's true.
someone else, I think.
I don't know. Who is it?
Chicago White Sox.
Uh
They're getting
is
lambasted for
this
Benintendi, and then I mean I don't even know if this is their fault, but the Clevinger thing, um, that's really not looking great for them. Their biggest signing is outside of Benintendi is likely not going to pitch much this year. So, anyways, we can move on from that bad news.
I actually kind of like the Benintendi signing for the White Sox, but
Really?
we'll see. There was an interesting article. I think it was in Fangraphs about the White Sox need for left-handed hitting and like the specific approach that he brought and how it fit with the team. I don't know. It was a compelling article. I'll find it and send it to you.
I would give Benintendi half of that, and I still wouldn't want him on my team. I am not a fan.
Yeah, the dollar amount was pretty high. I agree with you there, but I'm not too worried about their financials. It's more like having him on their team. I think he will be. I think it will be good for them, but we'll see.
Let Abreu walk and paid Benintendi. It's insane to me, but this is not a Chicago White Sox podcast.
We are having Tony La Russa on the show next week, though. Most famous for being the manager of the White Sox.
Does he know what a podcast is? Probably, right?
There was a really good article that I read a little while ago. I forget what website it was for, but it was could the Queen of England name Mario?
I mean, now she couldn't.
Well, definitely now she could not. But I think that is a similar question to that. Does Tony La Russa know what a podcast is?
Yeah. Interesting thought experiment.
No.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, we've got more stuff we want to talk about, as always. But before we do, we want to remind all of our listeners that this show is supported on Patreon. We're about to start the 2023 season, and we are excited, and we're going to be bringing this show to you every single week. Follow the Cardinals like you never have before. In the Bird Scored with us in a private Discord server. Support the show, and you get access to that, and you just get the warm, fuzzy feelings of supporting a couple ding-dongs making a podcast every week. What more do you want than that? Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds.
I got to pay for these toofs.
Help me lobby Ben getting wooden teeth with your dollar, your hard-earned money.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Also, if you enjoy the show, consider leaving us a review in your favorite podcast platform. It really does help. Thank you. Ben, where can people find us online?
Yeah, make sure to follow us at Talk About Birds on Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram at Talking About Birds, and you can also email us questions, thoughts, comments, and insults to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And yeah, just to say, if you join the Patreon, it's $2 at the lowest tier. We'd appreciate it. Tell your friends, tell your family, grab people's phones, and just subscribe to the podcast. That's, any guerrilla marketing that you can help us out with, we appreciate.
I always forget to say too, if you're a subscriber, you get early access to the show. So sometimes that means just a couple of hours if we're recording late on a Wednesday, but sometimes we record earlier, and I'll get the episode out to you as soon as it's done editing. And so sometimes that is Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. It just kind of depends on what our schedule is. So you can get access early, so you can hear all of our hot takes right before the big news drops that we didn't get to talk about because we recorded it.
So make us look slightly smarter.
Yeah. All right. What's next, Benny boy? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I thought it was a good time to talk about, we got some new rules for baseball in 2023. I know that we've kind of talked around these a little bit, but I think it's a good time to kind of make sure we're all on the same page and understand what the hell's going on. And the first one is, and I put this in order, I guess I think the way in which it'll impact the game. And this first one, I think I'm very, very excited about, but the pitch timer, is I believe what the MLB is calling it, pitch clock, whatever you want to call it. But the rule as written is, in an effort to create a quicker pace of play, there will be a 30-second timer between batters. Between pitches, there will be a 15-second timer, and with the bases empty, and 20-second timer with runners on base. This will start in spring training, and it'll go wide. And I will say, personally, I think this is a slam dunk. I think that this adds a sense of urgency in the minor leagues and in their testing and their baseball, testing leagues and stuff like that. It's shaved about 25 to 28 minutes off of games. And that's all nothing time. I think that MLB probably believes that this will increase offense to some degree. And I think that that's probably true to a degree that might almost be imperceptible. I think these pitchers are really good, and they're so stuff oriented now that it's hard for me to see this making a huge change. I think this is all about the consumer. I think that we are going to love this. The fact that we know, like I said, it's like when you're telling a story, when you're watching a movie, when you're playing D&D, when you're doing anything that is narrative based, there being a ticking clock adds to the suspense and the fun of it. And I think the great thing about this is it doesn't change the game on the whole. It just kind of speeds it up. Like one of the best parts about baseball is that you play until somebody wins, right? You have enough time to do what you need to do. But the fact that we will have less, butt scratching and pacing around the mound and, really just like, I love you, Giovanni Gallegos, but it is painful to watch you pitch. I think this is a great move, great timing. Can't wait to see it. I hope everybody's on board.
Yeah, in general, I am too. I've talked a little bit about like I I do sort of enjoy the tenseness of the time in between pitches, but that is only in really tense games that have like a matter of importance, and that basically means like only like rivalry games or late season or playoffs. Um, and so I will take the 25 minutes less of the other 155 games that I'm going to watch,
Right.
for, losing maybe a little bit of that tension on the back end with those other games. And I could be wrong. Like I think there's a different type of tension of when you need that sort of pace that baseball doesn't typically have. So in general, though, I think this is a great move. Like this makes way more sense to me than a lot of the other things that they were doing to increase the like or decrease the time of the game. Like this is going to be a significant impact on that. And like you said, it doesn't really change the game. It might for some individual pitchers,
Yeah.
but across the board, it's not anything huge. There was
Well, and I should also point out, like, not just pitchers, there are batters too. Like Harrison Bader, a chronic glove adjuster like him is
Mhm.
going to be affected by this because not only does the pitcher have to be ready, the batter has to be ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're interested more specifically with the Cardinals, I have a little bit of data for you. This comes from an article from pitcherlist.com, which is a great resource. It's mostly a fantasy baseball site, but they do really interesting analytics, and then they like skew it towards fantasy, but it's good for just baseball analysis. And they're talking about like who might this change impact. And so Jordan Montgomery is the only Cardinal. They basically ranked the like starting pitchers in baseball on their delivery times. Jordan Montgomery is like the fifth slowest uh, starter
All
in
right.
baseball. So keep an eye out on him. And then on the inverse, Miles Michaelis is one of the fastest. So
Yeah. I
it
feel like we could have
shouldn't,
guessed that. Yeah.
yeah, it shouldn't impact him at all. Um, but we'll see. Montgomery, possibly. And then you already spoke about, I don't have relievers here in front of me, but I would bet that Gallegos is
I
pretty far up there.
Off the top of my head, I believe he's like the third or second or third slowest pitcher in baseball. And if you've watched the Cardinals game over the last 3 years, you know that to be true. He is
Yeah.
so deliberate, as they say.
Yeah. So we'll see. But I agree with you generally. I think I have a little bit more hesitation about it, but overall, I think this is like I don't agree that baseball needs to be shorter, but if you're going to try to make that happen, like this is the smartest way to do it, I think.
Yeah.
Way more than all the other little weird like, you know, weird things that happened
Well,
over the last few years.
and I think what's good about this one is that there's a competitive element to it. Like you guys
Yeah.
have to be ready at the certain time. Everybody's on the same page. Now, when you get to the second rule that we're going to talk about, I feel like that is less true about the defensive shift limits. So shifts are going away. The defensive team must have a minimum of 4 players on the infield, with at least 2 infielders completely on either side of second base. So that means that you can pretty much shift without, it really just takes away the extreme shifts. I think that this is going to have almost no effect in scoring in baseball. I think that it'll have a minor effect in the increased athleticism, which I know something that Theo Epstein has been talking about from, like, he's what, part of the baseball gaming better commission or whatever,
Yeah,
like
whatever.
make baseball great again. Bullshit. But anyways, they're going to be limiting shifts. This is going to increase offense for, like, I don't know, 3 players. I was kind of trying to find who, like, which Cardinal would be, helped by this, and there's not really an option. Like, I thought maybe um, Nolan Gorman would, but he's not as pull heavy as you might think. He only pulls 40% of the time. He's nowhere near the extreme. So I don't think this is really going to affect anything. It might hurt some luggy second basemen like Nolan Gorman, and it might help show off people like Tommy Edman, who have great first step speed and all that kind of good reaction numbers. But I think this is kind of silly. I don't like the idea of telling managers how to manage, but it's going to happen. And like I said, I think it's going to be. I think the effect is going to be kind of undersized for what people might think it is with the naked eye.
Yeah, it basically is going to help pull heavy left-handed hitters, which is a relatively big archetype in baseball, but not the most common, right? And then even still, it's not like it suddenly means that they're going to stop hitting ground balls to the second baseman. It's mostly going to
Right.
stop those, like, which I'm sure for the hitter were very annoying, where a pulled left-handed ball that would dump right into right field, but there's that second baseman is all the way out there now, and the
Right.
shortstop is playing second base. Like, it's gonna stop that. Um, but outside of that, it's not gonna have a big impact. These left-handed pull hitters are trying to hit the ball hard and over the wall usually, so
Right.
it's not like they're trying to, like, bink it over there. So I don't know. It's I it does it feels reactionary to, like, it's like everybody felt like the shift was too bad, or was bad, even though it there's not a lot of data to support it. And also, shifting has existed in the entirety of baseball. Sure, it happens more now because we're smarter about it, but, like, I
Right.
don't know. I like the shift. I want to see. I'm like the opposite. Like, I want to see them pull all 9 and form a line right in front of the pitcher. Where it's like, you got to hit the ball over us, and if you do, it's a home run. But if it
Yeah.
comes, give me the weirdest defensive out lineups. Like, I don't
Well,
want to force people anywhere.
I think exactly what you're saying is the fun part. It's the risk reward. Is I'm going to pull the third baseman over here, and I'm going to bet that you're going to do this. And if you don't do that, I'm screwed. I like that the
Yeah.
manager and the players are able to make that decision on their own rather than being told what to do. And I'd also like to point out that, like, the majority of the numbers tell us that outfield shifts are actually more hampering offense than infield shifts. Infield shifts actually don't make that much of a difference. It's just a lot more obvious to us because, we're stupid humans and we see, oh, that guy's over there now. It's harder to tell, oh, Lars Nootbaar is shaded 20 feet, to the left or right, because
Right.
it's a big outfield, and it's kind of harder to compare what's going on there. So yeah, anyways, we're in the same boat. It's going to happen. Maybe we'll see some better, like, more interesting plays from Nolan Arenado and top tier defensive men because they have to cover ground a little bit differently, but whatever. The other rule change is coming down the way is bigger bases. So bases are going from 15 inches to 18 inches. And I think originally this was something I was excited about, but when it's been put into practice in the test leagues, we found that it hasn't really done much. So maybe this is a good thing for safety. Uh, I don't know if it's going to really increase stolen bases, but here it is.
Yeah. I had, when this first came out, I hadn't considered the safety element at all. And the more I, like, try to comprehend the intent of this change, I do think the safety part of it is probably the bigger overall impact. And I think that's great. Like I am for any move that results in less people getting their like Achilles shattered by a slide or whatever. You and I have talked about like let's do the softball first base thing where there's like the ghost bag to the right, like any of that stuff. I am supportive of increasing the safety for the players. The least fun thing in baseball or in sports is when your players get hurt, right?
Oh yeah.
And I don't care anything about the like, oh, it's you know it's a tough man's game, and so no, I want them playing. So yeah, as far as the actual outcome, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, stolen
Yeah.
bases are fun, and if it increases them even by a few percent, like that's probably fun. I'm okay with it. Reward the speed and the risk taking. Speed has been down. It's been ticking up a little bit recently, but like generally, speed's the lowest it's ever been in the game,
Right.
and I think it is kind of a like interesting element of baseball. So I'm cool with it. Like I would love for there to be another, 80 stolen base
Oh
season.
yeah. I mean, that'd be
And
double of what we're seeing now at the highest level.
yeah, and I don't think a 3-inch change on each side of the bag is going to result in suddenly doubling, but I don't know, maybe like baseball's a game of
Maybe
inches, right?
it is.
So yeah. So
All
we'll
right.
see.
Yeah.
That is the least like impact, like that is the one out of all these that I think we'll see the least amount of overall
Yeah.
impact.
Yeah. And watch we say that now when Tommy Edmonds steals
Yeah.
70 bases next year, but it
Well,
might be
I
because of the
mean,
big bases. It might not. It could just happen. Who knows?
everyone's talking about like, does it normalize stolen bases a little
Yeah.
bit more? So like everybody gets like 10 or 15, and then the elite guys are getting 50 to 80, or like,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Or
it's it.
maybe you start playing that game, you realize you have the squishy ball from Manfred and it's not one of the ones that are going to go over the wall. So you start stealing bases that day. And then, the next day you get the ball that's got the springs in it and you go back to playing, modern baseball, and who knows what's going to
Yeah.
happen this year.
Yeah. But I mean, we have both generally given the like rules committee like a lot of shit over
Yeah,
the last few years, but I think generally like these are fine. I
sure.
they're big changes. I don't like the shift one is the one I like the least. Um, but we both have also just said it's probably not going to have a major impact anyway. So whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so, all right, let's there's been a little bit of news around the league over the last week. So let's run down what's happened in the rest of baseball over the last week.
Yeah, the Houston Astros finally have a GM. They've hired Dana Brown from the Braves, longtime scout, kind of baseball lifer. I think he's been in baseball since like the early 90s. Guy that's been around forever. And it's kind of going from James Click, who was accused by Jeff Bagwell for being too analytical, going more the scouty direction, which I will say, good for Dana Brown. It's nice to have a non-white guy running a front office in MLB because we are severely lacking that. But I will say, like, funny, you win a World Series, you have a crazy run of success, and your thought is, we need to change something up. We need to get away from the
Yeah,
numbers. So, it's a weird move. I don't think the Astros are just going to fall off a cliff all of a sudden. I think they'll be fine. Dana Brown is a very smart person who's been in baseball forever and knows what he's doing. But yeah, just kind of interesting.
I have to assume there's something else going on with all of that. Like
Yeah,
I don't know, and I don't like to, you know,
you think we're avoiding
make
another scandal by doing this somehow?
there's something like that,
Yeah,
or they just don't like him,
yeah,
and like there's something about his personality. It doesn't even have to be scandalous, There's
just
just something
cut of
about
his
this
jib.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're like, all right, we got a championship. Can we stop? Do we
take
have to hang
take
out
a
with this
hike.
guy?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, like we got all right, we got what we wanted. Like this guy sucks. Let's get him out of here.
So bizarre, but yeah. I mean, you have to be right. There has to be something we don't know.
Yeah.
Moving down the list, Rockies owner Dick Monfort, one of my best friends, speaking in Greeley at the Breakfast of Champions event, which is hilarious, says to a crowd of people who paid presumably $40 for some eggs and bacon, "I think we can play 500 ball." And I have,
Whoa. Let's not go over promising here.
being somebody who lives in Colorado, and I go to a lot of Rockies games, I have a lot of emotions when I hear this. On one side, I think, oh my God, he's actually coming down to earth. If you remember 2020, I believe, before the pandemic shortened the season, he was predicting 94 wins for the Rockies. And unfortunately, we'll never know if the Rockies were somehow going to, just run the table after those initial 60 games and really come through and get those 94
Yeah.
wins. So we
I bet they
cannot say that
were.
he's wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. I bet that would have
Um,
happened. That was the year.
and now he's saying that they think that we can play 500 ball. And I will tell you, if you have not looked at the roster of the Rockies or the Zips projections or anything, they ain't going to do that. They're going to be a far last place in the West. And I think the most egregious, or the thing that annoyed me the most, was then he went on a long rant complaining about Peter Sellers and the Padres spending, saying that he doesn't think it's going to work out for them well, and then basically said, "Well, they have pitchers and we have pitchers, so what's the difference?" Essentially saying that like Yu Darvish and Blake Snell, and who's their other guy at the top of
Joe
the
Musgrove.
Joe Musgrove are the same as Kyle Freeland and Anthony Senzatella and the pitchers that the Rockies have. So just, I really
mean,
just wanted to talk like the delusion that exists when in the ownership level down at the Rockies is insane to me.
the Padres have pitchers and the Rockies have pitchers. Where's the lie, Ben?
I mean, that is very true.
What are you actually mad at?
I don't know. The other thing is like it's not even like they're not spending. I think they're top 10 or top 12 in the league. They're just so stupid.
It's bad. It's all
Like
they're probably still paying Ian Desmond, right? Like
they are. You give Chris Bryant $200 million to play left field, basically sapping all the value that he had as a third baseman. I mean, there's
and he has
just so
plantar fasciitis, right? Like, I
Oh,
mean, I don't
yeah.
know if that came out before or that was after he started with the Rockies, but like,
yeah.
yeah.
And I'll say this again: he has yet to hit a home run in Coors Field, which is the easiest ballpark to hit a home run in.
It's so funny.
We'll update it that as the season goes on. I'll stop complaining about Dick Monfort because nobody cares. But anyways, unbelievably annoyed by him. Also, in between him and Peter Angelos, like what are these owners doing? These breakfasts and these like shut up. You
Yeah.
like you're only hurting yourself. It's amazing how disconnected these billionaires can be. Not that I'm breaking any news by saying that, but
yeah, it's a further symptom of the deeper problem. They have no fucking clue how they are perceived or what their like how their actions are impacting like that entire franchise. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to less annoying news. Kind of confusing. Jazz Chisholm, second base, now center fielder for the Marlins, is on the cover of MLB The Show. I think I was surprised by this. Very surprised by this, but good for Chaz, I suppose.
Yeah, I think they're trying. Like, if I'm trying to put myself in their place because typically they go off of like who was the biggest star from the
and it was
previous
Shohei
year,
last year. Yeah,
and it was Shohei last year, and also Aaron Judge has already been on the cover, and so like you start looking like, all right, like some of the guys that you would look at first here have already been on it, and I think they're thinking, what if we flip it a little bit and we stop doing like the biggest star and instead we look at like young, exciting players. And somehow they landed on Jazz Chisholm over like a Julio Rodriguez or a Bobby Witt or a Corbin Carroll or I don't know. I mean, Jazz has been in the league longer, but he doesn't have an extreme track record. I will say I really like Jazz Chisholm. I think
he's on the same team as Sandy Alcantara, who's far more exciting.
He just won the Cy Young. Yeah, it's a like, if you think they're just trying to pick like a energetic, exciting young player, Jazz is a good pick. He's fine. He's an exciting young player.
Sure.
I think like he is a interesting guy. I think he is a good like, face for the game, but there's like 20 other young players that are that and also have uh more success in the league than Jazz has had. So it's a weird pick. I mean, I think they're trying to call their shot a little bit and be like, this guy is actually the next big, big star. That's
Yeah,
my best guess.
I mean, I know. I'm just looking through the history. We got Bryce Harper, we got Fernando Tatis Jr., Shohei Ohtani, Jazz Chisholm. But anyways, good for
Yeah.
Jazz. He's likable.
Well,
I think he's fun, and maybe he'll break out this year in a big way.
yeah, that's what I mean. They're clearly, it's a totally different approach. You
Yeah,
can't compare it to the previous ones, but even comparing it to its own seemingly intent, it's a weird choice.
yeah,
But I don't know. I mean, he is fun,
sure,
and so whatever. And also, it's like the show. I don't know. I used to love the show, and I feel like the game itself has lost some of its
yeah,
prestige too. So I'm like, I don't really care that much who's on the cover of this, but
yeah,
it is it's the only officially licensed MLB
right,
game anymore, so like it has its place, its stature, I suppose, but
yeah.
I feel like it's
MLB players
dwindling
play
anyway.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's from the Bahamas. So that's fun. Maybe they'll lean into
Yeah.
that. All right, moving on. Dexter Fowler retires. Cardinals legend, um, Cubs hero is
Yeah.
officially done with baseball. I know he's kind of bouncing around last year. He was in the Angels. He was with the Jays. Didn't really make an impact, but is officially retired.
Yeah, complicated Cardinal legacy. I think he was pretty much everything they wanted when in 2017, and then just fell off a cliff and got dumped
Yeah,
to the Angels. So I mean, great dude. I love Dexter Fowler as like
yeah,
a person and as a member of the St. Louis Cardinals. I was a huge fan. It
yeah,
was kind of a strange signing, like the baseball side of it. It's whatever. It's several years in the past now. But good for him. Good career. And
yeah,
I mean, he was like kind of one of the faces of the Cubs winning the World Series, and
yeah,
so he is like forever etched in at least one city's. Like
yeah,
he's a hero in Chicago for the rest of his life. So the whole like you go we go thing, I always thought was kind of cool. It's
yeah.
like the one thing that I like that Joe Madden did.
Sure. So yeah, good for you, Dexter. Go be an NFT god or whatever he does now. I was looking at his Twitter and it's all about NFTs. So,
Oh,
you
is
know,
it?
good
Yeah.
time to be into that right now.
Yeah, that's
Go
definitely
crazy.
now is the time to be in
Yeah.
NFTs. Oops.
Um, and the last thing I have here, I actually think we're running a little long. So I'm just going to tease this. The regional sport networks may be dying. There's a big issue going on with Diamond Sports Groups that owns Bally. But since we're going along, that's a big topic. I think we should just talk about it next week. And we'll pick
Yeah,
that up because it is complicated. And it's another one of those things that's probably going to affect us a lot more than it seems like. So, anyways, we'll talk about that next week.
Death to Bali.
There you go.
Um, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to end with another little game here. So thought this went pretty well a couple weeks ago. I thought I'd bring it back again. Got a little thought experiment for you here, Ben. It's less of a trivia game.
Okay.
That's right. We're returning back to if you had to.
If you had to.
Oh wow, you really had it timed up that time. That was good.
Thanks. Okay. So I'm gonna lay it out, and then you'll probably have some more questions for me because I'm not sure if I can
Okay.
explain this perfect. So
I bet you don't.
if you had to pick any uh, position player and or pitcher, so you can have either one or both
Hmm.
to pull from anywhere in the league and add to the Cardinals,
Yeah.
but you have to pay for them with comparable Fangraphs WAR from the 2022 season.
Okay.
Who would you pick? So does that make sense?
Yes. So if I want to trade for Shohei Ohtani, I can do it, but I have to give up 8 WAR or whatever it might be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, but contracts all apply here.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say, the one rule I'm going to give you is they had to qualify in 2022. So no, like,
oh, damn it. Okay.
I'm going to give.
You're definitely thinking
Yeah,
what I was thinking. Okay.
I know.
Good call.
I'll give Drew Verhagen for Fernando Tatis Jr. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. Okay.
All right. So, and where you're saying the existing contract is included.
Yeah.
Because that kind of takes Shohei out, even though I would love to have Shohei and give up like Nolan and Brendan Donovan for Shohei Ohtani. But you would only get him for 1 year. You're losing a ton of future value for that. So the next place my mind goes to is to Mr. Michael Trout, who what is qualified 500?
No, it's less than that.
Okay.
I'll find
Because
it.
Michael
But
Trout had 499.
yeah, he qualified. It's less than 5, or it's yeah.
Okay.
You could do Trout.
I mean, I think Trout, let me think about it a little bit further, but Trout put up 6.3. He is signed up for life. I really like the idea of just doing a 1-for-1, basically Nolan for Trout, or I guess really Goldie for Trout is probably the better move. Because then you just put like Jordan Walker or Burleson at first, and then you have Mike Trout, which would be incredible. Aaron Judge would be great. Wander Franco would be fun. I'm just kind of looking around the league right here. I love Yordan Alvarez, even though he doesn't really have a position. He's kind of a left fielder, but mostly a DH. Man, J-Rod. How much did J-Rod put up last year?
While you think about it, I want you to know that I just typed Fangraphs into the search bar within Fangraphs.
Jeez.
So I'm doing real good over here.
Really firing on all cylinders tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I've said a lot of names, but I think what did Acuna did not qualify last year. He had a down year. Oh, no, he did qualify. Okay. Whew. Do I want Acuna or J-Rod? Okay. No. All right. I have it. Acuna, who had a down year last year. He did qualify, though. He had 533 plate appearances, but wasn't fully himself. Only put up a 114 OPS plus, 2.8 WAR last year, which means he's mine. He is also signed for essentially nothing for the next 8 years. So I'm going to go, let's do Ronald Acuna for Ryan Helsley. Ship it. Helsley put up 2.7 WAR. Acuna hit 2.8. I think the baseball gods will let me fudge it a little bit there, or I could throw in.
In this moment, I am the baseball god, and yes, I'll let you fudge it.
I was going to say I could throw in Ben DeLuzio for you, or no, he's not a Cardinal anymore. I couldn't throw him in.
No,
I'll throw in any other player. Whoever you want, really. But that's the move. I think that there's no better move than that. Actually, now that I'm thinking through this little thought experiment, I challenge anyone to outdo that move because of the down year and because of, Acuna is arguably one of the best players in baseball. I was going to go J-Rod. He put up 6 WAR. So I'd have to give up a full Arenado or Goldie. So I think this is really the best move. And can you imagine having Ronald Acuna in right field for the St. Louis Cardinals, batting second, third, first, wherever you want him, really? 40-40 season incoming. What else can I say?
Yeah, it's hard to I was trying to when I was thinking about this game, I was definitely trying to prevent the trick shot with I'll do Tatis or whatever, but Acuna, yeah, you're buying. I'll give it to you. That's a good one. You're buying low, or no one even considers it low. He was still coming back from his ACL injury. It's just a normal season for someone coming. It was actually a really good season for someone coming back.
It was
from an ACL injury. He's probably going to be incredible again. Yeah, good one. I was thinking somewhere more in a like Tommy Edman for Corbin Burns sort of thing,
yeah.
where we solve our ace pitcher problem and kind of sell high on a fantastic Tommy Edman season.
Yeah, I
And
think for
also
team
it
composition
takes
wise, that makes sense. Yeah.
it also takes Corbin Burns away from the Brewers.
Yeah.
Of course, they get Edman, and I do think there was some conversation in the Discord today about us not appreciating Edman enough, and I want to say we have an entire episode called "Tommy Edman, King of Kings." So
we appreciate you, Tommy.
We appreciate you, Tommy, but it's been an up and down road for sure.
It has.
So yeah, I think Helsley for Acuna is I think I'd take that deal. I would buy it for $1.
Right? I mean, you're talking about an MVP level player, and we'd have a 3-4 headed monster MVP. I mean, it's the right move. It just is. That would be so much fun.
You know what I say to that, Ben?
Yo,
tequila.
Did you see that Acuna had to retire from the Venezuelan league because he hit a home run and he pimped it, and his family was like getting attacked in the stands?
Dude, he pimped it like I love it. I don't think his family should have been attacked. Let me be clear.
Oh, what a brave stance you're taking.
Did you see it though? They were up like 4-3.
Yeah.
And he hit a solo shot, and he I love these leagues because of how balls out they go on these sorts of things. I mean, it was like his home run celebration was as if he just hit a walk-off home run in the World Series to win the World Series. Like he's like, he is going hard at like looking really cool after hitting that home run, which I love. I thought it was hilarious, but yeah, he is. It's a funny little side story. So. All right. Well, that'll do it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, we'll be back next week. We're only a few more weeks away from the start of the season. Yeah. So until then, check out the Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Roast us about Tommy Edman. And we'll be back next week. And until then, go Cardinals.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.